Am I the a-hole for telling my ex it's not my fault his life turned out like that? I, 26 female, swear my ex, 27 male, will do anything to get my attention. He can never leave things alone. He still hasn't moved on, and it's sad because it comes off as desperate and annoying. My ex-boyfriend Oakley and I are no longer together, but we do share a son. We've known each other since high school and entered adulthood together. I thought he was my high school sweetheart like in the movies, but boy was he a good liar. When our son was 2, I found out he was expecting a baby with another girl. I ended it right there, but he came up with every excuse in the book to try to get me back. Anyway, we share custody, and some days it's okay. It's been 6 years since that happened. I know his daughter's mother is no longer in her life, but back then, it was a huge plot twist. Turns out his daughter isn't even his. But he can't do anything about it now because he's been raising her as his own. So, my son's sister had her birthday this weekend. Oakley asked if he could keep our son for a few hours to attend the party. I agreed, got my son dressed, and Oakley came to pick him up. I was supposed to get him after the party. I checked in to make sure everything was okay around the time the party was ending. I arrived about 5 minutes early, and my son was already tired. Oakley put our son in the car since he was sleeping, but then he wanted to talk. I thought it was going to be about our son or our co-parenting, but it wasn't. He just felt comfortable dumping his issues on me. He started telling me how hard things are for him right now, how he's lonely, and how his daughter is lonely too. I simply asked if he was done because I didn't care, and just wanted to get home and sleep for work. He got upset because I wasn't giving him my time. If I don't show that I care, he gets all pissy for no reason. He asked me how I felt about it, like he wanted me to agree with him. I told him it's not my fault his life turned out that way. Now for the top comments. He lost that privilege the moment he decided to violate you and your boundaries, and just straight up cheat. You are not the a-hole. You do not owe this man a single ounce of your time. For real, absolutely valid response, OP. You've been protecting yourself and your son from your baby daddy's drama for a long time. If what your baby daddy has to say isn't about your son or co-parenting, then it's not your problem. He's not your boyfriend, not even a friend. He is simply your baby daddy. Leave it at that. All communication should be about your son. End of discussion, not the a-hole. Exactly. OP owes him nothing beyond what's needed for co-parenting. Trying to guilt her into emotional support is way out of line. She set the boundary, and that's that. This is the second post I've read where a guy cheats and has another child. What is wrong with the world? Anyway, not the a-hole. If he didn't want to be lonely, maybe he shouldn't have, I don't know, cheated? The only one I feel bad for is the daughter. I personally know a guy who was two-timing. I don't know which girl came first, if any. One of the girls was my friend, and so was the guy. Anyway, he was dating our mutual friend and some other girl when the other girl got pregnant. He came clean to my friend about seeing the other girl, and they broke up, but he didn't tell her about the pregnancy. Then my friend had a pregnancy scare herself, and he flipped out at her and told her to get lost. She wasn't actually pregnant though, just thought she might be. Probably because, at this time, he was already engaged to the other girl he got pregnant. He went on to marry her, assuming maybe my friend had an abortion because nobody ever saw her with a baby. Found this one out years later, always thought he knew she was never actually pregnant. 2 years later, he found out the kid wasn't his. His wife had a FWB whom she was still seeing in secret, who is the actual baby daddy. She knew it, and so did her FWB. Basically, they both decided to take him for a ride and have him play dad and pay up, while they kept sleeping together. When I read stories like this, I always think of him. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my ex's husband around my kids in order for my kids to know they're half-siblings? I have 2 kids, 11 female and 9 male, with my ex, Jody. We were never married, but we were together for a long time, from ages 14 to 28. And we stayed together until our son was a month old. One day, she left me without a word and was gone for over a month, leaving the kids with me. Her parents were the ones who informed me she was safe, but said she didn't want to talk to me. Eventually, she reached out and told me she was done with our relationship and asked if I would give her sole custody of the kids. I said no. For a few months after that, she was very inconsistent about seeing them. I filed for physical custody of the kids and one temporary custody. However, by the time we got our formal court date, she had become more consistent, so custody was changed to shared physical custody, but I retained legal custody. Jody went on to marry Davis, and he was an a-hole. He told me he wanted to raise the kids with Jody and asked me to sign away my parental rights to him. He'd show up at exchanges with Jody, calling himself dad or daddy to the kids. Then he'd try to start something, but I always kept it calm and moved along quickly for the kids' sake. Davis really tried to paint himself as the better parent and attempted to engage in parental alienation, but the kids had a stronger relationship with me than with their mom or him, so he failed. When the kids were 6 and 4, Jody drove drunk with them in the car. She was not only arrested but also lost custody. She served a few months in jail, was released, and was allowed supervised visits with the kids. Those visits ended after 6 no-shows. Then, during a visit, she showed up carrying an illegal gun that she had started bringing everywhere. She finally got caught because of it, and all supervised visits were terminated. At that point, I was awarded full physical and legal custody. During her no-shows, Davis tried to take Jody's place at the visits, but he was denied. Jody has contacted me via email twice in the last 18 months. The first time was to tell me she was pregnant, and the second time was to inform me she had given birth. Not long after, someone else told me Jody was pregnant again. In June, Davis emailed me and asked if he could bring his child over to see the kids. He said the kids all deserve to know each other and become siblings in more than just biology. He assured me Jody wouldn't be anywhere near them. It would be just him, and he would do the same when the next baby arrives. I debated responding, but I wasn't obligated to reply, so I didn't. However, he followed up with 3 more emails over the next month. Then, he sent another follow-up email within minutes, saying I needed to think of the kids and that I could hate him all I want, but he loved my kids and wanted to be a good dad to them. I find it all to be BS. I don't trust him, and I don't want anything to do with the children he and Jody have because that carries risks, given the history with both of them, even if his is less of a physical risk. So, I replied and told him I would not allow this, and he needed to stop requesting it because I would never trust him around my children. He sent a follow-up email and another right after, where he repeated a lot of the same arguments and told me I had no good reason. Then, he sent several photos of his child and asked why I was denying his baby and our kids the chance to grow up close to each other. My only hesitation is regarding the other children, but I still feel it's too great a risk. My kids know their mom had another baby, but they don't care. Even their therapist says they're doing well and that it's not essential to allow this when the kids don't want it. But does it make me the a-hole if I don't? Not the a-hole. Trust your gut. Get a restraining order and cameras around the house if you can. A restraining order isn't possible, and I did speak to a few attorneys on this. I do have cameras around my home and car for extra security given the erratic way Jody has behaved, and even Davis has given me reason to pause. Not the a-hole. Jody is an irresponsible deadbeat mother, and Davis came in all smug, trying to replace you as the father of the kids you are raising alone. There's a reason your ex lost both custody and visitation rights. She's a danger to your kids' OP. Your kids aren't missing anything by not knowing they're half-siblings, especially when their safety is at stake. Their mother getting knocked up by a loser with a weird obsession with claiming paternity over your children doesn't change a damn thing. The main point is that Jody and Davis can't be trusted with your kids and have proven that time and time again. If Davis wanted the kids to be in each other's lives, he should have thought about that before trying to erase you from your own children's lives. His wife should have also worked on being less of a crappy mom. You need to protect your babies, and if that means the kids never meet their half-siblings until they are old enough to reach out themselves, without any irresponsible parents in the picture, then so be it. Davis and his emails can get lost. The worst part about that is Davis knew Jody left the kids with me when she left me. He knew she didn't even reach out to see how they were and was inconsistent. He married her anyway and decided he could be number one dad. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying my parents will never be able to make up for making me feel like I wasn't good enough when they neglected me throughout my childhood in an effort to have more kids? My parents had me, 19 male, when they were 19 and 20 themselves. When I was 6 months old, they started trying for another baby, but couldn't get pregnant. I'm still an only child today, and they have dedicated the last 18 and a half years to having more kids. They've spent crazy amounts of money on IVF and other fertility treatments. They've neglected everyone else in their lives, including me, in their attempt to become parents again. As a kid, I wasn't in any extracurriculars because my parents were saving or spending money to have more kids. There were weeks when I had no money in my school lunch account, and my parents didn't make me a lunch, so teachers had to give me extra stuff they had on standby. Speaking of school, I never had enough school supplies and would be sent in with used pens and pencils my parents had lying around the house. I used one of my dad's old backpacks, and my parents were the only ones who never donated a single supply to the classroom. I got grief for it way too often. They never showed up for parent-teacher conferences. They ignored requests from my guidance counselor in high school to meet and discuss things, and the same from my high school therapist who wanted us to talk things out. I never got to attend birthday parties because my parents never made time for it. They never let me have friends over because they didn't want to feed them or let them drink anything at our house. When I got invited to friends' houses, they would let me go but wouldn't pick me up on time. One time, my friend's mom was about to call the cops because it was over 4 hours past the time they were supposed to pick me up, and they weren't answering their phones. I gave them a number for my grandparents, and they picked me up. Whenever we were around extended family, all my parents could talk about was fertility treatments and having babies. There were many times when they both said they just wanted to have kids and hated not being able to. Other times, they would say they wanted more kids but added that they hated feeling like they had to settle for just one. We didn't always have as much food in the house as we should have because my parents would do anything to save for treatments. I never got new clothes unless my old ones were so worn out they couldn't be worn anymore. One time, I only had 2 outfits to alternate between. Every time they went for treatment and it failed, they would cry and talk about how unfair it was that they were being denied this, and I had to listen to it. Between ages 16 and 18, I spent a lot of time sleeping over at friends' houses. I also got a part-time job. On my birthday, I went to stay with a friend's family for several weeks, and then 4 of my friends and I started renting a place together. I had contact with extended family throughout, but I always felt like they weren't there enough for me, even though they knew because I told them what was going on. But now they're saying my parents are getting older and won't be able to try forever. They've asked me to have compassion and understanding when my parents try to form a relationship with me. My extended family argues they are still my parents, and I should forgive them for not being the best, and that I should let them make it up to me when the time comes. I told my extended family that my parents can never make up for neglecting me in their effort to have more kids, and I can never forgive them for making me feel like I wasn't good enough. I told them my therapy bill will be huge by the end, and my parents caused it all. They messed me up and left me with the bill. My extended family said I'm not understanding my parents' position. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. So basically, they severely neglected the kid they had to have a kid. Your parents are wackos. That's exactly what happened, only they had no more kids. In their effort to have more kids, they ended up childless. Not the a-hole. When you have a child, their well-being should be the priority. That's it. Everything else, including having other children, is secondary. Their entire lives revolved around this until you went hungry and had nothing to wear. Honestly, this sounds like the horror stories of neglect I heard while living in the foster care system. In truth, they never should have been parents. They're too selfish for it. OP, you owe them nothing. They ruined your childhood and sabotaged every single chance at happiness you got. Personally, I'd start ghosting the people telling you this. They're toxic. They watched you get abused and did nothing. They're all garbage. I knew kids in foster care who had more than I did. There was a kid in my class for years. He was in foster care, and he legitimately seemed to have a good life despite foster care. He had more and newer stuff than I did. He never had to wear clothes until they basically fell off him, like me. I'm glad for him, but I think people don't always realize this kind of thing can happen to kids like me who were raised by bio parents and never spent a day in foster care. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not believing my husband when a woman showed up claiming she's pregnant with his baby? This has been messing with my head for a week, and I need to get it out. My husband went to his best friend's bachelor party about 2 months ago. It was out of town, a guys-only weekend type of deal. I knew they'd be drinking, and there'd probably be women involved. He told me it was just strippers. I didn't love that, but I let it go. We've been married for 4 years, and I've never had a reason not to trust him. Last week, this woman showed up at my work. Not even at our house, my work. She asked if I was married to him, and then told me she's pregnant and thinks the baby is his. She said she met him at a party that weekend, that he was drunk, and they hooked up. She said she tried reaching out to him, but he ignored her, so she found me. She wasn't yelling or acting crazy or anything, just calm, like she'd made peace with whatever happened. She told me she's not looking for anything from me or him yet. She just wants to make sure he knows, and ask if he'd be willing to take a test later on. I didn't even know what to say. I just stared at her. She gave me her number and left. That night, I confronted him, and he denied everything. He said he blacked out that night, but swears nothing like that happened. He said the guys hired dancers and there was some touching, but he didn't sleep with anyone. He swears it's not true, but if he blacked out, how would he even know? I told him he's going to take the test when the time comes. He agreed, but he's been acting like I betrayed him for even considering it could be true, like I'm the one doing something wrong. My friends are split. Some think the whole thing sounds shady and she's probably just trying to pin it on someone. Others say if she came to me calmly, instead of blowing it up on social media or acting wild, maybe she's telling the truth. I'm trying to keep my head on straight, but I feel like I'm losing it. Would I be the a-hole for not standing by him right now when he says he didn't do it? I don't know who to believe anymore. Prenatal paternity test. It's a simple blood draw. You can find out very quickly. Exactly. No need to spiral when there's a direct way to get answers. A prenatal test clears the air fast and takes the guesswork out of the equation. And you can't just pin it on someone when DNA testing will prove if he's the father. Call her, see what she remembers about him. Something only someone who's seen him naked might know. Good luck. Oh, this whole thing makes me sick to my stomach. But yeah, I might call her. I need something to feel real right now. She's asking for a DNA test. She's not asking for him to take responsibility without any proof. I would only be suspicious if she suddenly doesn't want to do the test anymore. It's possible to do it as of about 10 weeks of pregnancy with her blood and your husband's.